Hi everyone, I'm Ferd and welcome to my video. I'm working on a Husqvarna 562 XP Autotune. It got burned up. Got to put a piston and a cylinder in it. I'm going to do a complete rebuild on this thing. I know it's a long video, but there's a lot of good detailed information in here. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. Follow me. Got a lot of videos coming up. Ring that notification bell so you can see them all. Thank you to all of my new subscribers, my old subscribers. The channel's growing. And I want to emphasize that I don't leave out any of my mistakes and blunders and old man stuff. Hope you watch this whole thing and enjoy the video. Okay, what I got here is a Husqvarna 562 XP. And it was brought to me like this. No carburetor, it's all in a box over here. But I know enough about it, I could put it back together for him if all the pieces are there. But anyway, he says it had spark, it had compression, it was getting gas, a squirting ether. I just can't get this thing, won't start. And I pulled on it just before had the spark plug and the compression thing out of it, and it felt like it had compression. But still, he said it had gas and spark. I didn't feel like hooking all this electronics back up to test the spark. I just took his word that there was. And I'm like, did you do a compression test on it? He's like, yeah, I watched Chicanic, and she says if you lift it up by the string and it doesn't fall to the ground, it's got good compression. I'm like, dude, why do you listen to that woman? I'm like, use a compression tester, man. So I put mine on it. I came up with about 60 pounds of compression. And I kind of knew by pulling it what was wrong with it. But anyway, the reason why you can't do that is because if the piston is tore up inside the cylinder, there's a lot of friction in there, and it's going to prevent this thing from falling to the ground as if it's got compression in it. So you can't 100% go by that. I took the 4 bolts off of the muffler and took a peek up inside the exhaust. So much easier than tearing all this crap out and whatever. And here's a picture of what I seen up there. We need to put a cylinder head and a piston in this thing. I could probably recondition the cylinder head. I'm not for sure, but if I can, I'm going to do that, buy a piston and just hang on to it for later on, because I think this is going to happen again. And the reason why I say that is because look at the blade he's got on this thing. I mean, that is a workout for any chainsaw. If I could salvage this one, I will, and just keep it as a spare for him. But let's go ahead and get the head off of this thing. I'm down to that point. Normally, I would leave all of this stuff on here and pull the whole thing off all at one time. But we'll do that putting it back together. We'll put everything on there and we'll put this thing back in there all in one piece. So much easier that way. I got a number 27 Torx bit, and you need an extended one like this. And it's a good ways down in there. And let's break those loose. Okay, we got our head bolts out. Got the handle out of the way. And we're going to see if we can get this cylinder up out of here. Sometimes they're a little tough. I'm just going to jiggle and see if I can pull up. There we go. And there we go. Got her out. Now the intake side looks real good on that. Look at that. There's a few scratches on it. Then you look over here on the exhaust. Bam. That thing tore up pretty bad in there. But we'll take care of that. Get this thing back together. There's our problem. And we'll fix it and get her running again. Don't have to go down into here anywhere. Okay, I want to take this intake off of there. Just get out the trusty old number 27. You get these 4 bolts. We're going to pull it apart right here. And I'm going to do it gently. Pull that out there. You got up here on the top, you got this little nipple that goes down into this rubber grommet. Okay, I need to get this piston off of here. On the side, there's a little divot right here. But just want to get up under right there with a little pick, pry up on it. You ain't gonna hurt nothing because this piston's done anyway. There it comes. Hopefully we can just push that wrist pin out from the other side. We should be able to push it out. And this one's in there. Just get a hammer. And I'm take my hammer and see if I can tap it out of there. Thing on the edge of it. There we go. And the new definition of a hammer. We're changing definitions of everything these days. I got it that far out. Grab it with these forceps. And there we go. That's done, so we can get rid of that anyway. Okay, now what I'm going to do, I'm going to take some already pre-mixed 2-cycle gasoline and I'm going to pour it down in here and I'm going to rinse the inside of this out. The reason why is because there's probably a lot of this piston down inside that crankcase and I want to get it out of there. I don't want that stuff inside this engine. While I'm here, I'm going to take this out and give it a little inspection. That looks good, so I don't lose that. Took the case outside and I rinsed this thing out several times, probably 6 or 7. Fill it up with the 2-cycle gas, pull the rope, shake it, dump it out. And I did this until I almost got to the color of the fuel that I was using and didn't see any of that sparkling aluminum floating around in it. Just want to make sure you get this thing super clean on the inside because that stuff will destroy your new piston and cylinder. It's a brand new part, but I still like to wash them. One of the reasons why, I mean, here's just a little sample what comes out of it. They probably do clean them a little bit in the factory, but there's always little pieces of this and that in there. It's like your duty to clean that thing, get all the little nooks and crannies and stuff. They're just there to machine it. So I've washed the piston, I've washed that, and I've washed our intake. Gave them an air bath, dried them off real good. We're ready to put this stuff back together. This is very important. You don't want to just take the ring, put it on the piston, and shove it up in there, whatever. We need to check the gap inside of the cylinder. You're going to need a few tools here. I got a little file. You can get these at the Harbor Freight. They're $4 or $5. They're real inexpensive. And you need a feeler gauge. And I'm going to be using this to lubricate everything. It's just regular 2-cycle oil. My hands are clean. I'm not using any gloves, but if you're rolling dough for pizza tonight, you may want to wear gloves. And we're just going to put a little bit on our finger and lube up that cylinder wall with it. And then we'll take some and just put it around this ring. But anyway, we're going to take the ring and squeeze it together a little bit with our fingers. Be very careful with these because these will break. And just kind of get it started in there, and then take your piston and push it down in there kind of straight. Okay, now what we're looking for is where the two ends come together. Shine a light down in there, and over here on the opposite side of the flashlight you can see just barely a little bit of light coming through that gap. Now the gap on this one is supposed to be 7 thousandths. We're going to have to widen that a little bit. That's too close, and they're usually like that. That's why you need to get you a file set and the gauges for this. There's a formula that you can use to figure out what size gap you need for what size cylinder that this ring is going into. We need to get at least 7 thousandths gap on this ring, and no more than 10. So what I'm going to do, we'll take this little file and I'm going to squeeze this thing together and just pull the file like that a few times. And then let's go down in there and check it, see what we got. Let me take my gauge and we'll see what we got now. And I didn't use very much pressure at all when I was pulling that file through it, and you've seen that I only did it like 3 times maybe. Okay, here's my 4 thousandths. 4 thousandths is kind of tight. One, 2, 3. Okay, you can see our gap getting there. Take your time. 4 goes in it easy. Okay, there's my finished gap. And it's right between 9 and 10 thousandths. So that's good. We're ready to put the ring on the piston. But first, we're going to put the piston on the motor. Okay, we got all of our parts scattered all over the place. Let's go ahead and try to put this thing back together. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this little grommet from out of this old head. Just kind of poke it up from the bottom there. It's coming out. And we're going to put that right there. And we'll get my finger a little oily. And I'm going to oil this up. And then we're going to take this cover that came off of it. If you remember, that little stubby thing up there went into that grommet. And then we're going to twist it around, and you got two little guide pins down here on the bottom that's going to fit into the head. And it looks like they went in there. All the screw holes look like they're lined up. Take our screws that came out of it. It's going to screw on to the bottom of the carburetor. Right there. And because of the shape of the holes, two little screws just like these right here. They got the angled cone shape to them. You got to remember, I didn't take this apart, so I'm winging it. So I'm kind of in the dark a little bit. There are some electronics that screw to the side of this. I'm going to go take a look at that real fast and see if that may need to go on here first. Okay, on the machine, there's this little component here. I'm going to try to pop it out down here at the bottom. Got a little catch on this side, so I'm trying to flip it up this way because I don't want to break that off. And there we go, it pops right out. Now we can unplug it right here, and then this is the piece that I was looking for. Okay, there's this little gasket. We'll put that on there. It's got these two little guide pins right there. So we can push it down on there like that. And just set her right there. And I see where there were 3 screws. They were like little locking screws up on the back side of it there, and I see 3 of them right here that look just alike. So I'm gonna put those on there. There's one there. There's one there. And the third one goes down in here behind this other plug. I don't want to take that off, so I'm just going to use a tiny little flat screwdriver. We'll just use that to run that one down. Just like that. See if I can get in there and snug it down with this one now. There we go. Tighten them down real good. And now we can put this on the intake. You got a little brass ring that goes down there. It's got a little lip on this side of it. We're going to put that down here. I'm sure that's where that goes. And then we can add this to it. And it's going to snap right here. Looking good. Now we have this. Okay, I checked the diagram. There's no gasket there. There's a little rubber seal here and one there. Now over here, this is spring loaded. It was like popped up that way. This comes back down and there's a little hook there that it goes to. The little rod right here for the choke assembly is going to go right through here. Okay, when I put it down, I want to make sure that goes right there this time, just like that. And when I take it off again, I want to make sure it goes there just like that. Okay, these plug in right down here. And then this one gets plugged in when we put it back in the machine. Ready to put the piston back in and then set everything down on it and get this thing back together. We're now ready to put this together. I want to put a little bit of oil down inside this thing. You turn that around a little bit, get that up. Get some on that bearing down in here. I'm going to pour some down in the side here and a little down there. I know it's a lot, but I just want to make sure it's lubricated really well. It may smoke a little bit when we first start it up, but that's okay. It'll go away. I want to put the piston on it next. Let me get my connecting rod back up on top here. And we'll take my little bearing, drop it down in my oil. We'll slide that in there. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to put one of our clips in. So the exhaust is that way. We'll put it on this side over here. It's so much easier to do it out here. You kind of grab them right there. This way we only have to deal with one of them in there. Okay, I got one clip on this side, and now we can put our piston on there. Oil this thing up a little bit better. Our arrow is going to go towards the exhaust. Now all we have to do is put this clip in on this side. There we go. Believe me, this is not as easy as it looks. I've had to cut 15 minutes of video. And it will make you cuss sometimes. Now we're ready to put the ring on the piston. I'm going to get it oiled up a little bit. And then remember, we have the little grooves that fit on that pin on the piston. And they're going to be facing up. So we're just going to start that ring right there by it and get it in the groove and then walk it around. Take your time, be very careful, because this will break. Okay, got her on there. And I want to lube up the sides of this real good. Before we go any further, this case is in two pieces down here, and there's a gasket that goes in there like that, and we need the silicone right down here where the two go together, right down there, because there's a potential air leak right there. And I'm just going to use some regular high temperature RTV. And that's the only places we have to do is across the bottom and then across the top. And the gasket should seal the rest of it. I'm going to lube this up. There's a lot of questions about honing a new cylinder. For chainsaws, I'm with the older guys. If you go to the arborist forums and read what these guys say about it, it's not recommended. These cylinder walls are coated. Somebody commented on my last video, I can't pronounce the name of the plating that they put in these things, but there's a plating in there and you don't want to scratch it off of there by honing it. So that's how I'm doing it. Okay, I'm putting my gasket on my head. The head has a little angle right here on the edge, and when I push this down over this piston, it's going to squeeze these in. You can use a little piece of PCV pipe or whatever, but sometimes it's just hard to get down in there with it. And I've always had good luck just kind of jiggling and working it down on there. Whenever I do this, I always stress to people, take your time. Make sure that you don't get off your little pin back here. And I'm just going to kind of get it started. But I'm just going to kind of work this thing down on there. And there it went. Just a simple push on that ring. Now I'm going to pull the rope and take that piston down. There we go, get it down there. And get everything lined up. And I think my gasket fell in there okay. There's little grooves on it. Check and make sure they're lined up. Up here. Everything's lined up okay, so now we can put our head bolts on it. Now before I push it all the way down on there, I want to get this wire connected again. I already pulled it out and got it pushed together. Right here, there's a little clip. There's another one on the bottom down here on this side. Let's get it over there. Gonna lift up on it there. There we go. And then these three wires have got individual grooves that they're gonna fall into. So I'm gonna try to help that one over there. That one, there's one in the middle. And then I want to snap it in over here on this side. There it went. Snap. And then I'm going to push those wires back in there. Yeah, we can gently turn it over this way. Turn it back around. We've got a fuel line over here, and then our throttle cable, we're just going to pull them back to where we can get to them here in a few minutes. And then this hose goes to our primer bulb over on the other side. Okay, now we can go ahead, push that cylinder down in there like that. Put our head bolts on it. There's 4 head bolts and 4 of these sleeves. You got one that's going to go down each one of these holes, and they should just fall down in there. And they've lined right up and they're screwing down there. Let me get these tightened down a little bit. Give it a little pull and see what this thing feels like. It feels good. You can hear her chunking in there. Chomp, 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 chomp. Okay. Over here we're going to hook up our throttle and our fuel line. Okay, right here we can see the fuel line where it goes in the carburetor. And there's the tube. Go over there and get that started. It just slides right up on there. There's no clamps or anything involved in it. And thanks to the rubber intake, we can kind of move that to where we can get down in there, but and there it went. Got it up on there. If you notice right down here, there's these little motor mounts. There's one on each side. All you got to do is just lift them up and lock them in those pins on each side of it. Now we have more clearance for this thing. Just get a hold of it right there and plug her in just like that. Flip this one back around. Plug her in just like that. Go and push it down there. Get her up under there. This cable comes up through that little slot right here. And it's not that hard. It's just that I'm trying to show you without getting my big hand in the way. See if I can flop that up in there. Yeah. There we go. Okay, you can see it, it's up in there. Now I just want to put the head of this thing right here in that slot, and our cable's on there. Everything's hooked up, and we're getting really close. I need to torque this head down, get my spark plug back into it. The rest of it's a piece of cake. The muffler's 4 bolts over on this side of it. I don't need to show you that. Your air breather goes on there and it clips on like that. Or 2 clips on each side that just snap on there like that. So I'm going to put everything else in there and then we're going to see if this thing runs. Okay, let's see what happens here. We'll fill her with some gas. Look how easy it starts now. There we go. Got a success story. Well, if you made it this far in the video, thank you for watching. That last part there, man, I'll tell you what, I thought I was going to have a heart attack. I pulled on that thing for a good 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes or longer. I don't know. But I couldn't show you all of that. And the reason why is because all that oil I dumped down into that crankcase. Don't do that. Use an eyedropper. And I knew that this was going to happen, but I didn't think that it was going to be to that extreme. But anyhow, we got it started, we got it running, things cutting wood, and it's doing just fine. If you liked the video, hit the like button. If you want to see more, subscribe to my channel, ring the notification bell. And if you're working on a Husqvarna 562 XP Autotune chainsaw and you're rebuilding it like I did, have fun.